my job, my rank is lieutenant. I'm a watch commander, which basically is, my job is to be, I'm in charge of all the law enforcement activities on my watch, which is a day watch. So,
how are the problems in College Heights relevant to you and like your position?
we deal with a lot of, we have a lot of complaints from residents as well as from some of the students. Obviously, you know that the university has its own police department, so we work with them quite regularly to solve a lot of problems. Our main issues about students in College Heights area. Now we have other officers who have different areas. There's a lower college area. I think they call it the College Terrace area. They have another officer, Sergeant D. Jones, actually is their representative. But our primary problems are partying and parking issues. And parking issues are probably our bigger problem more than the parties. So.
Do you think that, sorry, I'm trying to think. Do you think there's what's being done in response to these, to parking and to the partying situations?
Well, one thing that we've done along with the university is there's a part-time parking enforcement officer who actually works out of the Fredericksburg Police Department, and that's his job primarily to handle just about all those issues on a part-time basis, but he works just about not every day, Monday through Friday, but he works on a weekly basis most of the time, even though he's in a part-time position. But so he handles probably 90% of our parking complaints. If we have parking complaints on the weekends, we just send officers for that. And usually those are in response to citizens that call. If they think or they identify a parking problem, they obviously call us like any other complaint. And an officer just goes out and to try to verify if there's a violation at all. Obviously there's no violation, we don't do anything about it, but if there's a violation, it's basically a ticketable offense. I would say we very rarely would tow a vehicle unless it's blocking a driveway or something like that, and people need to use
there for 2 weeks or something.
Well, and we can. Yeah, there is a law in the city ordinance that says that you can't park a car on the street for more than 10 days at a time. And sometimes but first we definitely try to exhaust all efforts to find the owner before we tow it, because that could be pretty expensive, and we don't want to tow somebody's vehicle if we don't have to.
Yeah, I'm sure it's just more time.
We don't want to do that. Right.
What about the partying situation?
Um,
And obviously more recently, I mean, do you think things have changed around there with police presence, and like what have you guys done?
I think it's probably changed some, because I think most of the students who live off campus, and I think that's the people we're talking about.
Yes.
Although some of those people they invite other students to the parties, and there's a lot of on campus and off campus, and these parties can get out of hand. And obviously we get called for those parties. If the students have a party in their residence and they invite 10 of their closest friends, and the party stays inside and it doesn't get loud and the neighbors don't know anything about it, they're not going to call us to start with. But if that's the case, there's no violation of law, as long as everyone in the party is over 21, if they're drinking. But who's to say you have to drink? You can have a party without drinking. So.
If there is a party with drinking, of course, you can't have anyone under 21, though.
You can't have, no, it's only against the law when they drink.
Okay.
You can have people of any age in parties, as long as each individual is obeying the law. If you're under 21, the law says you can't drink. If you're over 21, you can drink, as long as you do it responsibly. If you do it inside, you don't do it in public. You don't get drunk, intoxicated, and go out in public, which is a violation of law. Then everything's fine until those laws are broken.
Do you have something you were going to say? No, I meant just with regards to that. Just curious, how do you make your judgment call? I mean, I'm not sure if you're the person who goes to parties, but how do you...
I rarely do. I'm a day watch commander. But I've been doing this for 28 years. So,
how long have you been in the same position?
I've been a watch commander since the fall of 2006. And before that, I was in our detective division for 7 years.
What policies were in place when you first took this, and what policies have been put in place now? And do you see any trends between those?
We've had the same problems for a long time, for years. I think if anything has changed, I think the public is becoming a little they're probably a little less receptive to the parties than they used to be. So they don't tolerate it as well. And if the public doesn't tolerate it as well, we get calls more frequently from the parties. And I think our enforcement efforts have probably stepped up over the last 5, 6, 7 years. Part of it, I'm sure the biggest part of it is that we have officers on patrol, and the officers, if they're riding through these neighborhoods and they obviously spot something that's a violation of law, a party that's getting out of hand, yeah, of course, they're going to stop in and address the situation. But I would like to I think predominantly most of our complaints come from citizens, and we just answer those calls because every time a citizen calls us, we answer that call.
Yes.
No matter how serious it is or how minor it is. We answer all of the calls that come in. If they want to see, some people call in and ask questions. We don't answer.
How's your day going? How are things?
We rarely get that, but that'd be nice sometimes.
I'll make sure to call it every day.
All right.
Do you have anything you want to ask?
No.
Okay, we had a situation which we've asked Everett about, and people have responded differently, where we had, someone was having a party, and we'll just say it was a sports team was having a party, even though it actually wasn't in this situation. And they called the cops, and they said, there are too many people at our house, and they're underage, can you come and help us out? And it's happened twice, and one time...
Maybe someone who's actually throwing the party actually called? Oh, I can see that happen. I've seen that happen. And actually, we do on some of the weekends that you have some of the special events, maybe homecoming, things like that. We actually during the day do answer those calls. There are parties in the College Heights area and the College Terrace area that parties start. Sometimes on the weekends they'll start at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and sometimes it don't take but an hour or two to get out of hand. And we have had people that I didn't invite all these people to my house, and I don't want them here. Yeah, we'll go to those.
But is there ever a time that the person who's calling is going to get in trouble? Because there was an incident, I don't know specifically the details, I'm not trying to get into that, but where someone did actually get in trouble because of this.
Well, the best answer to that would be, sure, if they break the law. If they do something that's a violation of the law, state code or city code, and if it has to do with an alcohol violation, a noise violation. Noise violations, almost always the person in charge of the resident or the resident is the one that's going to be charged because they're the ones that have control over their property. Whether they rent or whether they own, they're still legally in charge of their property.
Have people put the blame on you, per se, of the situation, or...
We get blamed for a lot of things. Quite frankly, we're not here to make money, and we are here to help, which is not what people think at all. We just write tickets because we need to make money, and we could care less, and we don't want to help anyone. Well, it's entirely opposite. We are here to help people. That's why we're here, and we're not here just to make money. However, people deserve tickets sometimes, and their fine money, does go to the government. But that's the way it works.
But that doesn't lead to you, ever.
No. It does, no, we don't have quotas, and we don't make commission. That's for sure. So.
What do you think some solutions would be to create a better rapport between College Heights and the police and Mary Washington?
I think probably understanding everybody's. We all have a place. We all have an opinion. We have a certain job that we have to do, and if people understood what law enforcement's role is, I'm sure it would help everyone else make decisions. But on the other hand, we have to understand what the residents want, because they expect a lot of us too, and we can only do what the law says we can do. Just because someone is walking down the sidewalk, so to speak, and a resident doesn't like it, well, that's not necessarily against the law, because anyone can walk down the sidewalk. As long as they don't interfere with someone else's rights, they can do that, and then they get upset at us when that person's not being charged for walking down the sidewalk. Obviously, it's not a violation law, so there's really nothing we can do about it. However, we'll go, and we'll find out if that person, we can have a conversation with anybody on the sidewalk, and if they haven't done anything wrong, they haven't done anything wrong.
Go on.
If they have, if we get to the point where we discover they have done something wrong, then we'll deal with that too.
What about the idea of registering parties? Say someone...
I haven't given it much thought. I know if the city required that would take some ordinance to be in place to do that. So,
but
I've never heard of that type of work.
I'm actually from Harrisonburg, and so I've been to a couple of JMU parties here and there, and I know that, or I've heard that like some parties will register with the police department and be like, hey, we're gonna throw a party. If you get a complaint, can you like shoot us a text or call us just to like quiet it down or something like that?
Now, I can say this, it's not registering, but if you're gonna have a party and you wanna call us and tell us you're having that, that's fine.
Okay.
We have a computer-aided dispatch, CAD we call it, and if someone wants to call and give us information like that, we will definitely note it and ask for the contact numbers, and if we ever, it will help, I think it would help. It's not a bad idea.
So
It would have to be a law if we were gonna require people to do it.
oh, absolutely.
And it's not a law.
Fact,
It's
yeah.
not at this current time.
So it'd just be a common sense thing right now.
It could be a common sense thing, just like if you're gonna go out of town and your house is gonna be vacant for 10 days, it doesn't hurt to call us to tell us that. Not that we can, we're not gonna go sit at your house for 10 days, but at least we'll know if something happens at your house, we'll know to call you on the cell phone or call your neighbor or something, so yes.
So, if there was a noise violation, instead of coming immediately, do you think you would, you guys would call ahead and say, hey, there was a noise violation?
Cut it down.
Cut down the.
I don't see where that couldn't happen. I don't have a problem with giving people a fair warning of something that may happen. I've always felt that way. It's not necessary. I mean, obviously, people need to know what the violations are before they cross that line. And if an officer gets dispatched to that call and they witness a violation, if you get charged, you get charged. I mean, but I have no problem if someone called. That may actually alleviate some of those problems.
We could also save manpower and like gas money and all sorts of stuff like that. Just
We have officers that actually patrol anyway. Fredericksburg is not 11 square miles. It's not a huge place, but it's a busy place sometimes.
I mean, like it just to like in case you're needed somewhere else or something.
But there are busy times.
Yeah.
There are busy times, and I don't work the night watch, but I realize that they get busy, and most of these are on the night watch. So I understand that.
How do you and the University of Mary Washington Police deal with issues such as off-campus partying, say if it's on College Ave or it's just off College Ave? How do you normally deal with that?
I believe we answer the majority of the calls, anything, probably even on College Avenue, because obviously one side of College Avenue is university property, the other side is a lot of private residents, which are city residents, so but we do work well with the University Police Department, and I know that they have policies now that when students get arrested, it becomes, when someone gets arrested, it becomes public information anyway. So if you, I, or anyone gets arrested, we don't have to keep it a secret anymore because it's just the law, so it's just public information. So, and I understand from your president that they want to know about that. But you probably have to ask them the details about that. But I know that when it becomes public information, we do regularly supply that information to them.
Do you guys have any questions?
I feel like a lot of students, your role as an officer, a lot of the time dealing with a student who's maybe intoxicated late at night, it's going to be confrontational, and students feel intimidated by cops. What would you say to that?
I can see how that a student may feel that way, because I understand that. I used to be it was Mary Washington College. I was a Mary Washington College student one time myself.
You went there?
Yes.
Okay.
Just for a
That's
year.
pretty awesome.
Just for a year, but I did. I went most of my college career, I went to a small college in North Carolina. But, so I feel the same way. I was one of you guys at one time. I never felt intimidated by police, but I can understand because we do carry the guns, we do carry the sticks. I don't have any pepper spray or a taser on me. I just don't carry it. But our officers do. But I think our officers need to treat people with respect. But on the other hand, our officers, they don't need to get hurt, or sometimes when you deal with folks who have been drinking, people do get belligerent, and the officers have to control the situation. But I think our whole department feels this way, but we only need to use the force that we need to use to control someone. On the other hand, I don't have a problem, if at all possible, if it's very convenient to let someone who is intoxicated, if they live there, and we feel that they're going to go inside. We don't have to arrest everyone, and we don't arrest everyone. But people do get arrested for public intoxication. Because we can't, I'll go back, we can't babysit them But if there's an alternative to arrest, we'll use that sometime. But quite a few people get arrested too, because it is a violation of the law to be intoxicated in public. As far as the intimidation, I kind of hate that would happen, but I definitely can understand that it would. And I think the majority of our officers are going to treat people with respect. I would like to say all. I believe all of them do. Let me just change it. I would like to think all of them do, but our officers are human beings. So, but we have a very defined set of laws and rules that we have to follow. So, and officers who don't follow those can get in a lot of trouble. So I think we have a good set of officers here.
You could say I would think everything would be perfect in our jury system too, but it is, everyone is human.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue with that.
Do you want to continue? Or
No, he answered.
What would like sort of be like the threshold for getting a drunk in public?
It is somewhat subjective, but usually for most of us, I've arrested quite a few intoxicated, it's just been a long time. But for me, it would have to be someone who was unable to really care for themselves. That's kind of the criteria that I've used. I can't speak for everyone. The law, the law doesn't really give you that. The law says you can't be intoxicated in public, and it's just that simple. So it does take a little judgment, but I think most of our officers aren't going, if someone has had just a drink or two, I don't think that really falls into being intoxicated in public. It has to be more to it. It has to be slurred speech, maybe their actions. Not to the extent of falling down, but not being able to walk straightly, not being able to walk a straight line. Staggering, I guess is a good term for you.
it's a nice word.
Yeah.
If someone's walking and they feel as if they want to, a cop comes up and talk to them, do they have permission to just keep walking, or can they say thank you, I would rather not talk to you, and continue walking?
Well, the unfortunate thing about that is police officer has a right to talk to people. The unfortunate thing is that the police officer already has a reason, if he has a reason to talk to that person, whether the person knows it or not. For example, someone wearing a blue shirt that says socks with a baseball bat could have just committed a crime down the road, and I ask him to stop. He has to stop for me, even if he didn't commit that crime, because I have a right to detain him until I determine he didn't commit that crime. And it's kind of the same thing for that. So the best course of action is if a police officer asks you to stop, just be cooperative. If you didn't do anything, you'll be fine. But he's not stopping you just to pick on you. He has a reason to stop you, or she has a reason to stop you.
Right, are you good? Let me just make sure. What's your favorite police show?
Wow.
I know.
Actually, really about the only one I watch that's current is NCIS. That's. And I'm actually one of these guys who probably actually have watched a lot of the Cops episodes. Because I watch those shows because I've been doing this for 28 years. I've done that, I've done that, I've done that, I've done that.
Is that like your ESPN top 10?
Kind of. Although I like ESPN better than I like Cops.
What do you think of the Cops show specifically for intoxicated college students?
It's called Campus Police.
Campus PD.
I haven't watched it much, but I've seen it.
Oh, I haven't seen that one.
It's pretty funny.
Right. Could you relate to that, maybe?
Do you have any idea what residents can do to handle student parties that are too loud without calling the police?
I don't know. Get to know your neighbors, maybe
I think that's...
before the party, because I do not suggest a neighbor going over after the party's out of hand and trying to get any control over it. I don't know if that would be effective or not. Just for safety reasons, I would suggest them doing that.
The last question I have, and probably is the last one, would be, we've had, when a cop comes to someone's door and they say, we've had a noise violation or we think there's underage drinking, what rights do they have to say you can come in or you can't come in?
For the officer what rights does the officer have to come in, or do the people have?
Both, I would say.
Officers are only able to enter anyone's residency. Residence is a place that's the law looks at as being very private. It's a very private place, and there's only certain ways for law enforcement agents to go into people's houses. Number one, being invited in. There's another, obviously, if there's a search warrant, but you need probable cause. You need to have, and probable cause is simple. Everybody's heard the term. It just means that a law has probably been broken. You don't have to prove, that's what the court of law's for. You just have to have reason to believe that something in this house is illegal, and you have to have a good reason, a really good reason, to believe that it's there. Then you can get a search warrant, and then you can go in there and enter a residence for that. You know, a lot of times, drugs, stolen things, that sort of thing. Evidence of someone was injured. That leads me to the third thing that we can enter if there's exigent circumstances, and the law says that, and I'll give you an example of an abduction in progress. You abduct someone, the neighbor says, I just saw him drag this girl into his house. It was 2 minutes ago, and she's kicking and screaming and went in that house. That's exigent circumstances. We can go in there to protect that person's life without a warrant and without asking permission. But it would have to be something maybe even not that extreme, but that's an example of what the law calls exigent circumstances.
See, I have to say I've been ignorant. That I've been wrong. I thought they could just enter with a noise violation, or just if they thought that people were under 21.
It doesn't, well, you open the door. Now, an officer can see an obvious violation in your house. That can be an exigent circumstance. We don't like to just go in, but if you've already opened the door, whoever's in charge of that residence is probably going to come talk to the officer. And most, if you're charged for a noise violation, that's probably going to take place right there anyway, at the front door.
Yeah.
At the front door, the officer's probably not going to come in your house. If he sees, obviously, a 13-year-old passed out from drinking on the floor, now that's an exigent circumstance. Now, this person may need medical help. That's another exigent. An officer may enter your house at that point.
But if they just assume, people who look pretty young, is that a reason why they can enter?
They can ask for identification to see if
From everyone in the house, or just everyone they can see?
they're probably not, to answer your question, they're probably not going to go search closets and things like that. But they'll probably ask you,
The house resident.
the house resident, for some cooperation. Because you're not supposed to have people in your house underage. If you will cooperate, it's probably going to work out for you anyway. Because you probably, I'm just thinking that you may not want these people in your house breaking the law. I'm just thinking that you might be. So you may cooperate. That's if you open the door to start with.
Okay.
But it doesn't mean if they think there's a violation in your house, it doesn't mean that they're necessarily are going to go away either.
Yes.
So out in front of your house, there's probably a public street that they have a right to be on. So, not that they're there to harass anyone, but if they believe that there's a violation of law, they'll probably enforce it the best way they can.
Can people besides the person who owns the house allow the cops to come in?
It's usually someone that would be in charge of the house. You'd have, a lot of times there's more than 2 people that live in a house. Although, I don't know if you knew this or not, and it's not a criminal law, but it's a zoning violation for more than 3 unrelated people to live in one residence.
Deep brothel rule.
Is that what they call it?
That's what the street calls.
I did.
So, do you guys get a lot of fines for the brothel rule? Do you enforce that too?
That's something that we have zoning enforcement people that for the city of Fredericksburg. It's not a criminal violation. It's not something that the police department enforces. However, if we witness it, we can report it. So we will do that.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, I mean, unless you guys, I think, what can an average student do to make the situation easier?
Follow the rules,
Okay.
like the rest of us.
Great answer. All right.
Because we all have rules.
Yeah.
Sometimes young people think there's more rules, but I think once we get to be adults, there are more rules for us than there are for young people. So,
So, thank you very
but I'm
much.
quite a bit older than you guys, so I have a lot of rules I have to follow.